The House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, suffered yet another embarrassing defeat on Friday after hard-right, far-right, extremist lawmakers tanked his stopgap funding bill that would have averted a federal shutdown on Sunday morning. McCarthy's proposed measure, which would have funded government for another month while enacting severe spending cuts on most federal agencies, failed in a vote of 198 to 232. 21 Republicans joined Democrats in opposing the legislation. Well, with less than 36 hours before government funding lapses, McCarthy appeared to be out of options to prevent a shutdown. But let's be clear as to who it is that is deciding that there should be a shutdown. Let's be clear who it is that is behind all of this. You know as well as I do that Donald Trump is the one who not just wants a government shutdown under Joe Biden's premiership, but is also very keen for this impeachment of Joe Biden. And by instigating these through his back channels, which he has to Congress as the kind of de facto leader of the Republicans, certainly in terms of polling and his chances of being the candidate for 2024, Donald Trump is still calling the shots. And why? Well, that's because Donald Trump still thinks that he is the president. He wears the badge. They call him Mr. President. He treats Mar-a-Lago like his winter White House. You know, he, to all intents and purposes, is still very much at the center of U.S. politics. He is driving the MAGA Republicans in Congress to do these things for him. He is the puppet master, and I'm sure there are people controlling Donald Trump, but that's not the point. The point is that this is his way to get that retribution that he keeps talking about, because there's a very good chance that he might not make it to 2024 because of 4 indictments, 91 charges against him. So he wants to inflict as much damage as he can on the Democrats until certainly the election approaches. And that really is the crux of this, isn't it? Causing as much chaos as possible. The impeachment of Joe Biden will never happen because, as we've seen through the investigation over the last 2 years that James Comer and people have been doing, there is no proof. There is no evidence of any wrongdoing on behalf of the president. Hunter Biden has never held a political office. He is not in the government. And so really there's nothing they can stick on him either. And so they'll just continue to kind of churn through this stuff. And by having these kind of committee meetings, people who don't know any different, like, let's say, Fox viewers who are seeing this hearing on television, they think that Joe Biden is being impeached. And Sean Hannity went on Fox last night and is like, well, that was very interesting, wasn't it? Joe Biden's really getting it. And yet they muted the video of what was really going on in the room, where people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez were just wiping the floor with this supposed evidence that was being presented. So this is a sham impeachment. It's a fake and faux impeachment. But to Donald Trump's fans, superfans, Fox viewers, and Newsmax, and One American Network, and America's Voice, and all of these far-right Christian nationalist channels, it looks like, in their echo chamber of narrow information, it looks like Joe Biden is going through the impeachment process. And then that gets corroborated by these far-right TV hosts. So just imagine how it looks from people who do not look outside of the conservative news environment. And as far as they're concerned, you know, the government shutdown is Joe Biden's fault. Well, let's be clear. Joe Biden agreed a deal for the government shutdown back in the summer. To all intents and purposes, Republicans voted for it. They're in agreement. They had it all. It's just now the extremists in the party who have taken over the Republican Party are now calling the shots. Kevin McCarthy, as you know, sold his soul to the devil when he, after 16 votes to get him elected to the speaker role, he really kind of gave away any power that he had. So now he's just a lame duck and is very much having to be at the mercy of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who are leading the charge. They want to shut down the government. They don't care about federal workers. They don't care about the people that will suffer and go without pay and the knock-on effect and the cost to the economy. They don't care about that. They're doing it so that they can own the libs. That's all this is about, owning the libs and making Joe Biden look as bad as possible, when this has nothing to do with Joe Biden. He did his job back in the summer. So I just think it's important that we're very clear as to who is the mastermind of all of this. And unfortunately, the chaos that ensues with a sham impeachment of the president and a government shutdown at the same time, it gives the impression that Democrats are in disarray, when nothing could be further from the truth. And as we saw from Hakeem Jeffries taking to the stage on Capitol Hill and explaining the situation and saying, we're here and we've done our job, and this is the far right infiltrating the Republican Party, and this is proof that Republicans cannot govern. They don't have consensus. They have an extremist, authoritarian dictator leading the charge, and he doesn't care about the systems or the protocols or the institutions of government. All he wants to do is burn it down. And then, whilst there's a Democratic president, it makes it look like it happened on Joe Biden's watch. In the same way that he felt that on his watch, he was sent COVID by the Chinese laboratory in Wuhan. He makes all this stuff up that makes it look like that he was dealt a bad hand, when in fact he was just a terrible president. I'm Anthony Davis. You can hear me every day on the 5 Minute News podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered with Ron Filipkowski, and on Sundays on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.